Okay. So, have you ever wanted to belong somewhere as a way to feel safe? For me, it was the corporate world. As a child of a migrant, it was particularly important to chase that elusive sense of security and safety. And the corporate world was dazzling. I was in my early 20s, and it was the noughties. It was just after that 19th century period where the big ideas battled each other out. And global capitalism had won, and I wanted to join the winning side. So I hustled. I did a bunch of internships. I started my own business. I joined investment banking competitions. I learned the language of big business and big finance. And eventually, I landed a job at one of the titans of the corporate world, Procter & Gamble. Yes, I had made it. P&G was a big, powerful company. It was a mainstay of our economy for over a century, and I was going to be a part of it. So I joined as a market strategy leader, and that meant that I was trying to essentially figure out how to sell more shampoo. That was my job, and it worked within the grain of the economic system. It made sense. It was helpful for the business owners, for the shareholders, for the executives, that when I do my job well, they do well. For a while, this sounded great. And I started to realize there were strong parameters around what I could do. You see, they had to grow sales all the time. They had to grow profits. They had to grow dividends. They had to grow the share price. These were the parameters that were non-negotiable. Everything you wanted to do had to fit within these parameters. You couldn't negotiate down, you couldn't compromise, and it meant that a bunch of things that we need from the world of business just cannot be pursued. And one evening I was driving home in my company car, and I remember starting to cry. I was bawling my eyes out and just saying, wow, is this going to be my life? I'm just going to try to sell more stuff. Now, the crisis led to a bit of a career pivot. I went into the aid world, I retrained, and quite quickly they put me into an area of aid and development, which is about how to work with markets, how to work with big corporates. And I ended up finding myself working with farmers in Indonesia, working with workers and communities that are part of manufacturing supply chains. And I was trying to shift the way companies did business in a way that would help them escape poverty. This felt good, and I ended up working at AusAid, the Australian government, and Oxfam. I was there for about a decade doing these sorts of roles, and essentially, day after day, I would search for those win-win solutions, those solutions that would lead to companies making more money by doing the right thing. The business case for sustainability, we called it. And we tried. We looked for the big opportunities that would deliver poverty alleviation in the face of the corporate parameters that we all faced. But time after time, I hit a brick wall. I hit a brick wall because some of the solutions we needed, of course, meant that we might need to pay a bit more to make sure people can earn enough to meet at least their basic needs. It meant that we might need to pay a bit more and maybe accept lower profits or lower profit margins or lower dividends to make those investments possible to save our planet and to save society. And as compelling as this narrative was, what I realized was that I was still in my safety zone. I wasn't challenging the core tenets of the economic system. I was saying, let's work with it, let's not criticize it, let's accept it as it is. And that also came to a head. I started realizing to make all the big changes we need, whether it is to transform the way we design products, to design out waste, or to reduce our carbon footprint, or to pay enough so that people live lives of dignity. What we needed to do was change the very deep design of business. Here are some things I heard from executives through my time. One in the tea industry, talking about all those tea pluckers that are paid below a living wage, trapped in situations of poverty in places like Malawi and Assam in India, told me, look, paying tea pluckers a living wage cannot mean paying suppliers more for their tea. The market just won't reward this. They need to fund it by raising their productivity. This made it impossible to meaningfully raise the wages and incomes of those people growing tea. A senior executive in a big, lauded fragrance company, major beauty company, told me that, look, we should introduce refillable bottles, but bringing consumers on board needs investment, and the payback period on that capital expenditure is just too long. They wouldn't do it, even though they had made huge, massive commitments to sustainability, and the only way they were going to do that was to move away from single-use products. It was not possible. And lastly, I met a gentleman who had been a senior executive in a major footwear company who told me about an amazing project that he had spearheaded. And he said, we prototyped an expandable shoe. That shoe would also be much more affordable for the world's young around the world. It was going to be profitable, but it wouldn't hit our usual margins, so we dropped it. Time after time after time, I started seeing profitable, commercially viable opportunities that were not profit maximizing. And we had designed companies that were incapable of pursuing those ideas that we need desperately, because we need to transform our world. And at the heart of everything, what I found was there was a big purpose focused on finance. Whether it was a company owned by the share market or funded by venture capital or funded by private equity, time after time, what kept it going was its focus on the financial parameters of big finance. This was designed in, this was baked in to the boards, to the ownership model, to the executive structures. And when I talk to these individuals, sometimes when I would be teaching them at business school, sometimes when we're in a partnership, collaboration, trip somewhere around the world, they would admit to me that actually the big changes we need to do are the ones we're not capable of doing. And they would admit to me it would be unsafe for me to pursue these ideas. These were the kinds of ideas that would get these executives fired. So I went back to the drawing board, and I felt like there was something dishonest in what I was doing. All of these win-wins, these business case for sustainability approaches, they weren't going to get us there. We needed a transformation in the world of business. And what I realized in all of this was that we could design things differently, but we need a reconstitution of what safety means for us. It can't just be about our safety vis-a-vis financial markets. It can't be about our portfolio size. It will need us to make different kinds of decisions, and a business world capable of doing that. So I came to this diagram. I came to this image that my colleague and friend Kate Rayworth came up with when we were both at Oxfam, and realized that this was the new conception of safety that needs to underpin our world. For those that don't know, it's a donut. It's a donut because it is made up of planetary boundaries, the 9 planetary boundaries that Earth system scientists have told us we must not transgress. And it's also made up of a social foundation, all of those essentials to life that we all need to live in dignity and thriving lives. And in between these two spheres, or these two concentric circles, is a green space that is the safe and just space for humanity. But we are not safe, as the image flicked over before I touched it. We are both in overshoot on life's essentials and falling short on the essentials of life for hundreds of millions of people. We are overshooting the planet's boundaries at a rate that is destroying our ability to safely live lives. This should alarm you. This should make you feel unsafe. This should be the image that catalyzes deeper transformation. So, we already know what we need from the business world. We already know. If we ask ourselves honestly, yes, they need to empower their workers. They need to design modular products like the Fairphone you see there that is designed to eliminate waste. We need them to pay their fair share of tax, not try to minimize tax. We need them to pursue agroecology and regenerative techniques that help minimize damage and work with and within the cycles of the living world. We know all of these actions are needed, but they are in the margins. They are happening, but not sufficiently. So how do we get there? We need to redesign business. This is the next challenge. This is the next discussion that we must all focus on if we are working in the world of business and sustainability. What do we mean by that? It means we get to the central design question of the business world. Is it the 20th century version that asks how much value can we extract through this enterprise? Or is a central design feature the 21st century question? How many benefits can we generate through this enterprise? And these designs are emerging around the world. Companies are innovating alternative models like steward ownership, like platform cooperatives, employee ownership, which is growing at 37% a year here in the UK. We're seeing examples where globally farmers and workers and artisans, a part of the ownership mix, are represented on the board. We're seeing companies put nature on the board as a representative through the organization Lawyers for Nature. We're seeing a phenomenal amount of innovation here, and this is the wave to ride if we're going to get into the donut and into that safe and just space for humanity. So, if you work in business, with business, in any capacity, my invitation to you is to become a redesigner of the world of business. We've created a tool that anybody can use to engage with internally in a company, and select organizations are also using this to change the world of business. This tool asks two questions. It asks, how does the design of your business block transformative action, and how could a redesign of your business unlock transformative action? The way to unlock and explore the deep design is through the purpose of the business. Why does it even exist? What solutions is it generating? What does it truly prioritize? Its networks of relationships. How is it embedded into long-term committed partnerships with suppliers, workers, communities, government? Its governance model. Who holds power? Who's represented on the board? And who should be represented on the board? What are the metrics of success of that company? Its ownership model. Who owns the company? What force does it play in shaping the design and the actions of that company, and how should the ownership evolve? And critically, its relationship with finance. What does finance demand? And is finance in the driving seat, or is it people and planet that is in the driving seat of business? So I invite you all, thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing the redesigning of business that you're all transforming around the world. Thank you.